All right. Hey, everyone. Welcome to the show. This is Street Dog Production, the Mahesh Chookolingo Show. I do have another channel that you can go over and check out, The Cryptic Hodler, which I do with a partner of mine who I do crypto investing / mining with. And over on that channel, we'll be talking about more businessy type perspectives on how we see the economy, politics, news, music, movies, whatever. We talk about all kinds of stuff, and we try to have fun when we do it. But on my personal channel, I just try to stick to things that jump out at me and things that move me, that I feel I have to talk about and that I feel is important to me. So that's why I'm going to be a little bit more personable on my channel. I am also going to have start doing instant request lives, IRLs. I'm working on that right now. And you give me some feedback. Tell me if you think that's a good idea. I want to be more fun with it. I want to do more music, talk about movies, and kind of have people put requests in the chat for music or for me to talk about any particular thing they want to talk about, if they want to give a shout out, etc., etc. Anyway, jumping into my topic for today, what is the name of this press secretary? I keep, I know Jen Psaki and I know Kayleigh McEnany was Trump's press secretary, but this one I want to talk about because she said something the other day that jumped out at me and I thought was really dangerous precedent to set. And it also shows you the mindset of whoever these people are, because it's very dangerous what they're saying. And I want you to carefully listen to what they're saying. Now, somebody made a video about it that was funny, and very rightfully so. This is a clown show. It is a clown show. So I want to play it for you, and we'll talk about it after. Okay, here we go. Listen to what she said.
Seizes the MAGA Republicans are the most energized part.
Let me say that again.
Seizes the MAGA seizes the MAGA seizes the MAGA Republicans are the most energized part of the Republican Party. This is an extreme threat to our democracy, to our freedom, to our rights. They just don't respect the rule of law. Seizes the MAGA Republicans.
Okay, I'm going to stop right there. Okay. I'm going to stop right there. I'm going to come back to what I was trying to say. So here's why this is dangerous, reckless, and wrong on the part of the Biden administration / Democrat Party. You're gaslighting. You're gaslighting the 50%. At this point, I want to believe 75%. Let's be conservative. 69% of American citizens are MAGA, Make America Great. It's a one-liner. That's all it means. And they're very Republican type conservative people. They believe in entrepreneurship. They believe in building businesses. They believe strongly in family values. They believe strongly in religion. And they believe strongly in fiscal responsibility. The mindset of MAGA. Now, if you're talking about some crazies in a trailer park somewhere who want to get out and do some dumb crap, you have people like that all over this country. And it doesn't matter whether you're a MAGA or Obama supporter or you like a particular genre of politics or ideology, there's always going to be crazy people. And what they did here is brush in with one broad brush anyone who supports Trump or is patriotic or excited about Trump, which you're well within your constitutional right to be that way for anybody, are going to be considered extremist. Why this is dangerous is because it goes against the Constitution. It goes against your freedom of expression, your freedom of speech, and your right to express your discontent about the way things are in the country. Now, as far back as I can remember, it's always been accepted and normal for there to be disagreements and opposition views and stuff like that. But the reason why it's different this time is I think that they're scared. They're absolutely terrified that this election is not theirs. And so now they're going to either try to gaslight the public so that they can have some kind of event take place and say, look, you see, we told you that these MAGAs were extreme, and therefore now we got to go round them all up and keep them isolated in this facility just until the election is over so that we ensure that the majority of Americans, as she said, go out and vote without fear. Let me tell you something. I've voted maybe 6 times in this country. No, I want to say 5. 5 times in this country. And every time I voted, I've never felt, as a person of color, I've never felt threatened. There was one time when I went to vote for Obama. When I went to vote for Obama, I did not have an Iowa ID. I was living in Iowa, but I had a Florida driver's license. And so I entered the voting facility with a Florida license, and they told me I couldn't vote. This was when Bush was running against Obama. And I was so pro-Obama that I was excited. I was there, first black president. I was on board. I was excited. And I went in, and the lady said, you can't vote. You don't have an Iowa ID. I can't prove that you're living in Iowa. And I had like a whole group of people there who came out and they vouched for me and say, hey, we know this guy. He lives here, and we'll sign an affidavit. And they did it. And I was able to vote. Right? And I was excited that time. Point is, when she says a statement that's loaded that MAGAs are extremists, is she remembering the fact that we had an entire season under Trump where so-called people were doing crazy stuff when Trump was in office? When Trump was in office, okay, we had all kinds of crazy stuff taking place across this country. We had riots. We had places burning down. We had protests up the wazoo. And they did the most outrageous stuff, right? Remember when they tried to storm the White House outside and they had to get pushback from the police? Do you guys remember all the crazy nonsense that took place under George Floyd during that time? Do you guys remember all the people who were affected from cities burning down and vandalism and destruction all across this great nation? Do you remember? Or did you get amnesia? So you got a country full of responsible Republicans and conservatives and independents and even Democrats who have walked away from the left because of all this craziness that took place during those 4 years of Trump. Where was your call for extremism back then? Where was your call for extremism at that time? Nowhere to be found. Of course, the Republicans were talking about it, and there were sound bites on TV about them talking about the craziness going on in the country at the time. But there was no push at the extent that they're doing right now. So it seems to me that your narrative is falling apart. Oh, man. I mean, it's just crazy. It's crazy. It's crazy what's going on, folks. Look at that. Crazy. This was across America and still happening today, right? The other day we had somebody drove into a Trump store and destroyed the store because they didn't like Trump. So they plowed their car in. Listen, we could sit here all day and argue about extremism all you want. But we have to understand that the rule of law is there for a reason. The Constitution is there for a reason. Our nation is here for a reason. And this political persecution that is taking place right now that I witness and I have personally experienced and I observe coming from people who call themselves the empath is the word, right? You're empathetic. You have sympathy, you have empathy, and you care about people, you care about things, you virtue signal, you talk about how much you care about humanity and the earth and all these things. But yet you're the first people to jump on the bandwagon of demonizing other people. Republicans do it too. I'm not here to talk about Republicans. I'm talking about the side that I grew up on, the ideology I grew up with, the life that I came up in. I was a Democrat. I was a lefty. I told you I voted for Obama twice. Right? And how I fell into the Trump camp, how I fell into the whole Trump thing was by pure accident. I had no interest in politics in 2016. When Hillary lost, at least I said good riddance because she's a corrupt criminal. I don't want her in office. We already had Bush and Cheney. I don't want that. So when Trump won, yeah, I was disappointed. I was like, is this the best our country has? That's what I said when he won. And I went about my business. I went to work. I paid my taxes. I paid my bills. I was in debt. I was cleaning up my life. And I was speaking to some guy from Africa, from Uganda, I think. And he said, man, you're lucky you have a president like Trump. And I scorned at him. I said, are you crazy? Are you kidding me? How could you say that to me? He's an idiot. He's a buffoon. He's a monkey. He's a baboon. I hate him. I don't want anything to do with Trump. He's just another tool in the shed, another pawn in the game. And so I went about my life. For the first 2 years of Trump presidency, I was always skeptical on the outskirts watching. I was involved in some anti-Trump protests in the beginning. I was involved with the whole, trying to impeach Trump with the whole Russiagate thing. I was in it, knee deep in it, feeling all the pain, feeling all the hurt, feeling like, man, how could we let a guy like this run our country? And so the psychosis began to set into my mind. But it was only this African kid from Uganda who told me his opinions about this man. And I decided to go on a journey to investigate, well, what policies is this man putting in place that a boy in Africa is so impressed by my president? And he finished the statement by saying, I wish more leaders in the world, including Africa, would think more like Trump. That sent me through the roof. It did. I went crazy. Livid, right? So I decided to watch a couple videos. He shared a few links with me of uncut, unedited, raw speeches of Trump at the UN, and the speech where he does the whole, mocking the reporter thing. And I watched every speech from beginning to end in its raw entirety for full context and full understanding of what was going on. Then I began to do further research. I began to look at his foreign policy. When the whole North Korea, South Korea thing happened, I was impressed. All these decades, none of our leaders could have done what he did, but the news media went after him. And the further I started digging down and drilling down into who this man was and his policies, the more I began to realize, like, maybe my fears and concerns are not mine. They're coming from somewhere. So I began to observe. Where's my fear of Trump coming from? Why don't I like him? Where did my not liking him come from? I started noticing that all the news clips and articles and media prints that were out there were very anti-Trump. And I read them, and I watched them, and I believed them. When I found out the Russiagate thing was a hoax, I was very let down. I was like, man, I bought into that wholeheartedly. When I found out that the same people who are doing the Russia hoax are the same people running the January 6th committee, I got very disheartened. When I found out that the same people involved with the Russia hoax, Steele dossier, and all this stuff was involved in the Mar-a-Lago raid, I was disappointed. It means that our institutions are politicized and corrupt. And we have to acknowledge as a country, as a nation, that this is where we are at as a country. And in order for us to move past this as a nation in harmony, in unity, we have to be willing to accept the hard truth. You may not like Trump, and that's your right. You're okay. But you got to look at facts. You got to look at what's presented to you and make a decision and say, this makes sense to me. I understand what's going on here. You don't have to like someone to acknowledge that they might have done a good job. Okay? The liking part is secondary. We don't have to have Trump. Later on, we might have different ones. But what Trump did was turn the entire American political establishment on its head. He exposed the frustrations of the nation and brought it to the forefront. Forget about his style. His style sucks. You don't like his style. You don't like his American bravado toughness. Fine. You don't have to like it. But what you do have to acknowledge is that the things that took place during his presidency and the initiatives that were taken under the Trump administration were very impressive. And they were impressive to me. I didn't have to like all of them. Right? What stood out to me was the methodology and the fact that they exposed the entire political system from beginning to end about all the inconsistencies that come out of the House and Senate, about all the corruption that exists within our federal systems and law enforcements. Okay? He was very careful in balancing that line between back the blue and, hey, yeah, we got to point out corruption. Those things can exist simultaneously. You can support your law enforcement, but you can also acknowledge when power corrupts. Okay? I would like for you to take the time to understand that we're living in times that are very sensitive. And you, me, as American citizens, we have a choice. We have a choice to have dialogue. Ask yourself this. Why has the media and social media platforms been approached by the White House, this administration, and FBI to censor and block certain things off the internet? Do you think that's right? The argument is, well, these are private companies, so they're within their right to do so. Guess what? Turns out the government is getting involved. The government is telling these private agencies what to do. That sounds like China to me, baby, and Russia. Sounds to me that we're not living in the United States anymore if we allow this to fester and continue being the way that things happen behind the scenes. Or maybe it's always taken place that way. Maybe it's always been that way behind the scenes. And now that we've had this whole hate for Trump, it's brought all of this to the surface. And so now as a nation, we have a responsibility. Whatever nation you live in around the world, don't just sit back and be complacent. Get involved with your community. Talk to your neighbors. Talk to your friends. Talk to your family. Express your point of view. Don't fight. Don't argue. Just talk about the policies and the results of such said policies and where it could take the country. And just because I might be a little bit disheartened about the left / so-called liberal / and I say so-called because those names are loosely used now because it means nothing to me. A progressive means nothing to me now. A liberal means nothing to me now. A lefty means nothing to me now. I used to identify those things as that not too long ago. Now they mean nothing to me because what we are seeing coming from the so-called Democrat establishment is censorship, demonization, or political persecution. And a whole bunch of other things of secret bills that keep getting snuck into these big pork bills that are pushed out of Congress, that supported by all Democrats. None of their promises that they gave on the campaign trail to their supporters have come true, except for this one thing that they said they were going to try to waive this, waive student loans or something like that. And even that has yet to be seen, right? I'm totally okay with forgiving student loans. I'm fine with it. And a lot of Republicans and conservatives disagree with me on that. I'm totally fine with women having the right to decide to have an abortion. And a lot of Republicans and conservatives disagree with me on that. But I still debate and talk with them. I have a conversation. And I still am going to end up voting Republican because I have no other choice. You've left me no choice. You've shown me that your ideology and your vision is corrupt and polluted with tribalism and complete disdain for the other half of America who may not agree with you, who may not see that they're seeing any kind of results with you. And so to you out there who are constantly badgering me and calling me Nazi and calling me a racist and calling me all the disparaging names that I've been called in the last 4 years, last 2.5 years of me jumping ship and going over to the Trump campaign / Republican / conservative side, which I think I tend to see myself more as a left-leaning individual, a progressive individual. Medicare for all, UBI, those things are great ideas. Things to help society, the people who fall off the edge of society, to have a cushion and a net to be caught so that they can climb back out of that and go back to whatever they were doing or re-educate themselves and readjust and move on. Those are all good programs, great ideas, great social movements that exist. But it has been turned on its head. Now the Democrat establishment are they have co-opted, and I don't even know if it's Democrats running the show anymore. because they defer everything to the World Economic Forum, and they're listening to a foreign body governed by other countries telling the United States administration, this is the laws and the mandates you need to implement in order to run your country and to be absorbed into this one world idea. Listen, let me tell you something. I'm not against one world agenda. I love it. It's a great idea. Can you imagine the whole earth is one big country? And we get to have the planet Earth be one big giant country, one big giant nation in space. And we could travel from this and go to another planet and colonize and move on. I'm all about this one world idea. The problem is they're not allowing other ideas to the table unless it fits their narrative. And that's the mistake they're making. That will be their downfall. Okay? So I leave you with this. Just because I happen to be MAGA, see the Trump sign behind me on the wall, doesn't make me an extremist. I'm a really awesome guy. I'm cool. I'm fun. I hang out. I do things. I love my wife. I pay taxes. I go to work. I make podcasts. I do all kinds of stuff. I play frisbee golf. I love working on cars. I love guns. I love people having rights. I love free speech. I love art. I love debate. I love conversation. I love traveling. I love different cultures. I love all kinds of things. I love humanity. I meditate. I try to eat healthy. And you're going to call me an extremist. You're going to watch me in my face and say that because I identify as MAGA, which you could identify whatever the hell you want, right? You've made the rules. That now I am an extremist. Now I am a threat. Get out of here. Get out of here. Really. You're lying. You're lying and you're gaslighting the American public. And you are creating a dangerous situation for us all when you say stuff like that. And there are Republicans out there doing the same nonsense. This is the other assumption you people make. You assume that just because I'm going to vote Republican or tend to lean that side, that somehow I agree with some of the dumb shit that some of these Republican people are doing as well. I don't. It's just that in my head, they're the lesser of the two evils right now. One of them seems to be more on the protection of the Constitution and upholding the traditional ways of the American life as a nation. And the other group is like, we need to be absorbed into the Global Council of the UN. We need to get rid of nation states. We need to get compliance. We need people to comply. We need people to listen and obey and be the little worker ants that they are and just do what they're told and shut up. That's what you're promoting. And that's what people on the outside are looking in and seeing. You already have your tribal people. You already have your extremists who support you. They're all yours. You can have them. But for all the independents, like an independently minded thinking people like myself, which are in the millions, you have lost us. Because you went down a road without any consultation. You just decided, we're just going to do this thing and destroy the entire country, destroy the nation state, and absorb ourselves into this one world government, and everybody will comply, and everybody will have to eat bugs and do all these things and live this way and whatever, blah, 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 whatever the story is. You've seen the videos. You've heard the lectures. I've gone and listened to all the Davos lectures. I don't just listen to one thing. I listen to NPR. I listen to CNN. I listen to NBC. I listen to Fox News. I go on 4chan and mess around with that crap too. I want to see what those idiots are talking about. I go on Spotify. I listen to Joe Rogan. I listen to Jordan Peterson. I listen to Steve Bannon. I listen to anyone who has something to say. I go and I hear what you have to say. My father taught me a story. My father gave me a story when I was a young boy. We grew up in this organization, the Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, the transcendental meditation guru who brought TM to the United States. And my father was a part of that organization. There was a rank you get in that organization when you do a course and then you become a teacher of this technique of meditation. And he was a governor. And he told me a story when he was in Rishikesh in India doing his course. I think it was called TTC, Teacher Training Course, I think it was called. He said it was forbidden for people to go see. Now, in the movement, like right now, today, like on their campus and in their centers they have all over the world, they preach very wholeheartedly, do not go and see other gurus. Do not go and listen to other people, because you can't have your feet in two boats. Because listening to another guru or another teacher when you already have a teacher is bad for you, because it can confuse you and you'll try to mix techniques and I get where they're coming from. I understand it. But every organization has to have rules in place to keep its membership. The churches do it, the temples do it, and this organization did it. Scientology does it. So I get that line of thinking. But what stood out to me was the story my dad told me. My dad said, so we're sitting in the hall, we're doing satsang. Satsang is like the lectures the gurus do, the teacher does, sharing his stories with the people in the hall, and everybody's asking questions and whatever. And there was a guy coming to town named Jiddu Krishnamurti. I don't know if you know who he is, but he's a very well-known philosopher. Bruce Lee also was into Jiddu Krishnamurti. And he told everybody in the hall, go and listen to Jiddu Krishnamurti. He said that to everyone in the hall. And so my dad followed. He left. He went and listened to Jiddu Krishnamurti. He saw the lecture. He came back to his thing and went about his business. And my father instilled in me with that story for the rest of my life that you should always give people a hearing. Always listen to everyone, because everyone has something to share. Okay? You don't have to be insecure or afraid for anything, because if you are operating from a place of truth within yourself, you're willing to go and listen and hear what people have to say. I listened to everything that all my detractors and opposers had to say to me, and I felt it's not how I feel. My life experience has led me a different place. So criticize all you want, hate all you want, argue all you want. But at the end of the day, you got to come to some kind of spiritual growth within you that says, I want to understand why. Why this, why that, how come, where, how. That's a seeker of truth. When this whole thing played off with the lockdowns and everybody was talking about, science, no one accept the science, you're a science denier, you're this, you're that. It drove me mad. It drove me insane. I couldn't take it. I popped like a cherry. I was like, no, you can't tell me that me questioning something or having a doubt about the data that's coming in, where are they getting that data from? Who's providing or supplying that data? How are they coming up with these numbers, these exaggerated huge numbers within 24 hours? Are we that good? How are they making the calculations? All these were questions I had that no one wanted to answer. What's in the thing that we're putting in our bodies? What about adverse reactions? You were called a conspiracy theorist if you spoke like that. And now look at it. Vindication. Now it's the mainstream. So the things that were banning, the things that got people banned off of YouTube, got people banned off of social media, and now that Mark Zuckerberg came on Joe Rogan and told him the truth, the FBI came to us and said that there'll be misinformation. That means that the government has always had a hand in censoring the public. Now, let me tell you something, people. You may not have to agree with anything I'm saying, but I'm going to tell you this. When you forcefully use force, when you use force to try and achieve your goals in life, whatever that may be, get ready for backlash. I went through it. You're going to go through it. We're all going to go through it. There is no shortcut or way around it. So with that, I leave you. Please take the time to think and observe and ask questions and be curious and inquire and investigate and listen to everyone, what everyone has to say. Doesn't matter if you're left or you're right. I was listening to NPR today. I didn't agree with some of the stuff I heard on NPR. In fact, it felt like I was listening to a misinformed or ill-informed talk show, because there were a lot of stuff I wanted to interject and said, well, what about this thing? What about the Hunter Biden laptop, right? That also, they were talking about how Trump is corrupt because there's a possibility that money was coming into him from foreign entities. Okay, if you're going to use that argument, logic dictates, then what about all the other politicians like Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, Joe Biden, and all the other politicians in this country who can easily be bought out, even on the Republican side, by the way, because no one is immune to corruption. No one. So when you live in reality and you bring yourself into a place of realistic observation and view of the world you live in, you're empowered. Now I got the power to decide. Now I have the power to choose. Now I have the power to say something or do something or be something. Empowerment means you seek truth, you see the lay of the land, and you operate from there. And you move on, baby. Life is a wonderful thing. Life is beautiful. Have a great time, guys. And remember, love each other. We don't have to hate each other. We don't have to agree on anything. But we could still find our humanity, can't we? Even if I might be a bit of an extremist, which is what you're calling me. God bless you guys. Have a blessed night. Take care, and thanks for listening in. And thanks for listening to my rant, which was a bit long. I don't think I'm going to edit. I'm just going to post it raw. And like I said, I'm going to come to you guys live soon, and we'll set it up like that. And I don't always want to talk politics. I love movies. I'm in the middle of launching a production studio right now, Street Dog Productions. I'm working on a website. I'm working on a script. And I have a lot of stuff going on, man. I'm all about making movies, making entertainment. I eventually want to get into music. I may not make the music myself, but I want to work with creators who make music. I want to produce music. Maybe become like a little DJ Khaled myself. Who knows? Another one. They didn't believe in us. God did. DJ Khaled, man. All right, guys. Thanks for listening. Take care. Peace out. And all love. Thanks.